Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Being Better Beans. This week we're chatting with BricksOBrian, who's a content creator over on Twitch and pretty much every other social media platform, who uses his love of gaming to create content that helps to lift people up. And he talks about the value of having a team around you to help lift you up when you need it. And we also dive into the concept of building something that is a legacy for you beyond the content you're creating today, this week, this year. Hope you enjoy it. If you do, please hit that subscribe button, follow on all the socials, and we'll see you again soon. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of Being Better Beans. This week's guest is a content creator. I feel like that's not quite a good enough term for what this guy does. A Lego fanatic who doesn't create content about Lego as much or at all anymore, which is a fun story. An author, a published author, who wrote a children's book. I guess not children's so much as like a young adult book that about what it takes to be a professional gamer. BricksOBrian, Brian Saviano, welcome on in.
It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you. This has been a very long overdue meeting of minds and creatives, and I am very honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
I touched briefly on the introduction. I have to relate this story before we get into any actual conversation. But so I have your book, and it's sitting on my desk here, on my table here. I wish I should have had it up to hold it up while we're talking. That's just poor preparation.
Oh, don't worry. There's plenty of copies around my office. It is totally fine.
So as is usual, when I'm down here, my daughter will walk in and kind of like, ooh, what's that? Like to any Lego or new toy she finds, because, daddy has too many toys in this office. And she saw the book. She's like, ooh, what's that? And, credit to, another Twitch content creator, Mr. Hinkle Draws. But she was immediately looked at the pictures like, oh, I want to see that. So immediately asked me to read the book to her. And she loved it. So that's a great, she's 5, she's more interested in like kind of a fun story and the pictures. And that says a lot to the creation of the book itself, that like it held a 5-year-old's attention for long enough to keep her entertained, which is good.
That is amazing, and I'm glad. Even though I'm an adult, haven't been a kid for a long time, I have a very strong passion for colorful illustrations and world building and characters with meaningful messages behind them, which is why I went with a children's book. It's obviously not as if I couldn't write something more complex or in-depth, but the ability to convey a meaningful message with story and characters that can keep the attention of a 5-year-old is not easy, and is something that I took the challenge to do. And you proved the point there that it was successful, at least in that moment there. So I'm very grateful for that. And it was such a passion project that people responded so overwhelmingly positively to. And it unlocks way more doors, as you alluded to in the beginning, that I'm not just a content creator, but published author now, and all the things all the time, right? So that's just a testament to that. So thank you for those kind words.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of adding it to our rotation of books that she reads. And anybody who knows what like toddlers are like when it comes to books is they'll kind of pick a book and read it once, and then they'll put it down, and then they'll pick a book and want to read that book every day for the next like 2 weeks. So I'm waiting for that to happen. Right now, because it's in my Lego room, it's not like in her orbit in that sense. Yeah. But I'm sure we'll come to that time where I'm like, oh, this one again. But that's normal for every book and any parent who's done that kind of thing with their kids. But that's also their most, like, your most recent kind of evolution. That was last year, I think it was published, right?
Yes. So
go ahead.
The book has been in development since January 1st, 2020, when I decided that I wanted to do it. And obviously everything happened, and not only having the circumstances of the world, but a team of people behind me that wasn't meeting the expectations I had for it. It was very, very close to actually being canned in its entirety because of the frustration and the way it was turning out. I was not happy with it, and it wasn't a quality product. And it wasn't until I said to Kevin, like I was literally, 5 minutes from in my mind canceling it. I said to him, hey, I'm done. I'm just doing it, done, not doing it. And he decided, on top of doing all these other projects, no, we're going to get this done. And then that evolved into a Kickstarter, which then was a massive success, and then continued on to what it is today on the heels of the next installment of what that is, launching very soon. So it is, it's been a lot, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, and it's good. You got to throw the plug in too to keep people on the edge of their seat. That's the part of being a great content creator as well. But I mean, this wasn't my intended first question, but you mentioned almost kind of giving up on it, and a lot of success in any domain, but content creation especially. It seems like there's a lot of frustration and a lot of quitting before you achieve the success you want to have, because it is very hard. So you recently went through that with the book, and I'm sure you've had other, episodes, throughout your career. But for the book specifically, like, what was that like, kind of finally seeing it come to fruition after almost quitting and finally getting it done?
I worked on it in secret for over 2 years because I wanted it to be a surprise up until the moment it was available for my audience as a, hey, this is a new thing I can do. And look at this. Here's the pitch. Here's everything. Please go buy it on Amazon or my website or whatever. And that was also my way of saying, if this all hits the fan, then I don't disappoint anybody besides myself. And I've been disappointed enough in my life that I'm used to it. So, all right, whatever. So it wasn't until I told my core group of people, like Kevin being one of them, and showing them how it was developing and where to take things, that there was some level of expectation within my inner circles, and they were not happy with it either. And everybody I talked to about it was like, it just wasn't looking good from the original illustrations that were part of it, the support I was having from the people I was collaborating with at the time, and there was every single reason to give up on it. And nobody was, looking over my shoulder saying, Brian, keep trying, keep going, because they are looking out for my best interest, my friends, family, and colleagues, if you want to call them that they just want to see me happy and doing the best thing that I can. And if this is a point of stress on top of a pandemic and an ever-changing social media and content creation landscape, then I got to knock it off and just cut my losses and do something else, which is a part of business as well. Talking in that front is like, hey, this turned out like garbage. Let's forget about it and just cancel the project, move on. And I knew it was something I was passionate about, and I knew I wanted like Kevin to do it if he had the capacity to, but I couldn't ask him to do it on top of all of his other work. So I knew I was comfortable at the point letting go of it because it wasn't going to turn out the way that I wanted to. I don't have the artistic ability to make the book that I wanted to, and I wasn't finding the right person to do the book the way I wanted it to. And even if I took the moment from then to learn that skill set to be an illustrator, it's 5 years in the making. And like, man, I could make more YouTube videos or podcasting or literally anything else with my time. So if it wasn't for him, then that book wouldn't exist. And I attribute that all to him and his incredible level of talent, dedication, perseverance, and it's really him. It's not even me. Okay, like it's a lot of the success behind it is with him, and now it's my job as the content creator who is the author, to go out and pitch the book and get it distributed and open the eyes of people in the public to what this is, because he just wants to draw. He's not the marketing team. He's not any of that. So it's up to me to take it to that the next step. So, if it's not for me, it doesn't go anywhere. But if it's not for him, then it didn't happen in the first place. And now we're in a position where it's a symbiotic relationship, and bringing this to life where it's compounding years and years and years of his Lego drawings that he's done as commissions for forever. making it into this art style, and he can look at an animal and be like, all right, I can make a pig. Here we go. I can make a dolphin. I can whatever. And it is every step of his journey and my journey culminating at that same time to lead to that moment of not giving up on it.
Yeah.
And you can't write that in a, you can write that in a movie script, but you can't write that in life. And sometimes it happens to work that way. Sometimes it happens not to.
Yeah.
I was in the process of developing a plush character for my mascot, and it really did fail. And I'm like, you know what? This isn't worth it. Kind of my losses. Will deal with it maybe years from now. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
So sometimes the failure is just a matter of who you have around you and what they are able to your friends and colleagues are able to help you through as a person. And that's what happened with the book specifically. But I've had, like you mentioned, I've had plenty of failures we all have in life, right? But that was one that got saved, thankfully.
Yeah, a lot of content creation is experimentation, right? So of course that's all not going to work. So let's kind of back up a little bit, because you've been at this for a long time, a lot longer than I have. What made you get into content creation? Was it kind of an accident and it evolved, or was it a conscious choice? And what are kind of some of the big steps you've had? Because it's been a while, right? So lots of different things, and I'm assuming different focuses for your content.
Yeah, so I always knew when I was early on in my being a kid and being a single child, that I didn't have that person right next to my side to share a lot of things with, right? I had friends, but where I grew up, you couldn't really go out and play outside or go over people's houses. It just wasn't conducive. And this was before online connectivity and gaming was really a thing, or Discord or Facebook video, whatever. So I knew I wanted to share my passions with whoever is out there. And I was opened up to YouTube in the very beginning, probably about 2008. And by the time I got into the 7th grade, I saw that, hey, I can make these videos and people will like them. And I want to be able to articulate myself as a person to convey that information for people on the internet. And that's my way of self-expression. And I went through my times of, deleting this channel and sweeping this under the rug and pivoting to this, and like what works and what doesn't, all different platforms and other big channels that I was working for at any other given time, like Beyond the Brick obviously being one of them, and navigating a ever-changing social media landscape while navigating my life as a person. And man, it's a lot to figure out at once. So I knew that there were people out there that shared that same passion I did in these earlier days of the internet, and that's obviously been established like here. Like this would never have existed when I was a kid. So I had to evolve alongside the internet and find what I wanted to share, which was my passion for video games and my passion for Lego, and finding the communities that are within that, either as me, an individual, or being part of a larger team to bring that to life. And that's been the case since 2009. And video games are my number one creative outlet to build something in Minecraft, or share a story while I'm playing Zelda, or embrace the world of Super Mario and everything that has to offer, and giving spicy hot takes on Lego sets, because obviously people enjoy that as well. So it's taken a bunch of different forms, and now especially I love podcasting. I love doing this stuff, so I want to do more of it, and I don't have an outlet, and it bugs me. So it's a little bit of everything now, especially.
Yeah, well, and to be honest, that's when I kind of got into this. Was, I took a break from Twitch and reevaluated what I wanted to do as a creator on here, and try to see myself as a creator, and b, what do I want to do. And I knew once I kind of came back and established myself as, I like this still, I want to do it, I wanted to do some kind of podcast, talk show, interview thing. I love this kind of format, to kind of pick the brains of those around us. And one thing I've alluded to several times on my stream, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, and you mentioned it here about Lego, and I want to go to that because that really affected me when you were talking about on stream how you were not going to do Lego on stream anymore, because you wanted to keep it for yourself. So can you take us through that process first, kind of what you were doing with Lego initially in terms of content, and then how you came to a decision to no longer use Lego for content?
Yeah, so I've done a bunch of different types of content, from reviews and podcasting and news reviews, podcasting, any type of coverage that was conducive for Lego. And as not a creative builder in that sense, with Lego bricks, I did what I could to contribute my thoughts and opinions to the greater community and be part of activations with Lego directly through Beyond the Brick and in other capacities too. And what I've come to understand on multiple fronts, like, there are so many people that enjoy Lego and Lego content and everything that it is. My audience and what they know me for is my passion with video games, and it is and we can debate this till the live law, the sun comes up, but the reality of the situation is twofold: that the gaming market is way bigger than Lego ever will be, easily, and that I can buy a $70 copy of Tears of the Kingdom and get 120 hours of enjoyment out of it, where if a mother buys their son a $70 Lego set, they may not even finish it because they don't have the attention span for it, or they get aggravated, or it doesn't have a valuable price to part ratio. And that's just the fact of the matter, that you can connect with people around the world through Minecraft, and Lego is a very different and solitary experience in a lot of ways, unless you're hopping into a community online like this. And children aren't doing that, families aren't doing that, it's for them. So I've come to appreciate the type of people that have been brought into the Lego community. And I think now more than ever, as we have all seen on Twitch especially, Lego is the avenue that gets us into the stream, perhaps, but it is the people. It is the people every single time. Like, you watch Zach M. Rutledge or Amish Ace do their thing, because they got the redeems and the craziness, the personality, the emotional connection you have with those guys. And it is not because you want to see what new clip piece is connecting this thigh on this mech. No one cares. They care about the people. And if it's not for the people, then none of this happens in the first place. I actually went to Brickworld Chicago this past weekend, and the only times I touched Lego were to help Brick and Nick put his mocks out on display and to take apart Graham Diamond's Duplo Castle. It's the only building I did with Lego. And I'm like, man, I really feel like, insert word here that I'm not going to say, because I went to a Lego convention, I didn't build any Lego. Like, what kind of fan does that make me? And somebody I was in my group with was like, no, you were talking with people from the community all weekend long and having a wonderful time with them. You didn't miss the point of the convention at all, Brian. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And that's what it always continues to be about. And that's what I focus on, give my opinions where I can, and continue to focus on the people and what they create with Lego as an artistic medium. And that's what I always become impressed by. And venting about Lego not making a Peach's Castle for the 5,000th time, I will be 2 feet in the grave before they make that set, and I will continue talking about it. So I am good with it.
And at that point, you could just haunt Lego.
Yeah. I literally, I'll haunt Boone Langston over in Denmark and be like, you Lego master didn't do that thing for me. Gosh dang it, So
you mentioned having like a passion for video games, and the Lego is kind of like secondary. You enjoyed it, and from a content point of view, it wasn't enough to drive you to keep creating with it. And I relate to that because I have a lot of Lego, and most of it is Marvel sets. But Marvel is my primary fandom, not Lego. Like I've said in the past, for the Lego purists that want to get mad at me, like if Mega Bloks gets the Marvel IP, I'll be buying Mega Bloks tomorrow. Like, it's not a Lego specific fandom for me.
Sure.
And so you also mentioned in terms of content, like the games, last longer. What were some of the games that you have kind of done the most with in terms of your content, as like favorites, or just things that had a good lasting power?
Good lasting power always. Pokemon, Minecraft easily. Minecraft is an endless sandbox of creativity. It's digital Lego, and it has a whole other side to it. You know, people build Minecraft objects for a living and create servers and facilitate communities full time. Like it wildly impressive. And I have my own server that is very bare bones by comparison, but
Mm-hmm.
it is an everlasting source of entertainment for me and for all the people that enjoy it alongside me. And you know, I can, by comparison, you know, I obviously can do stuff in studio with digital bricks, but it doesn't click the same way as if having the Minecraft inventory opening, getting blocks and colors, and bam, here we go. I have a pirate ship where physical Lego would cost me $120 immediately just to create, you know. So there's that. Like I said, the main Nintendo IP is where I find my most passion. Pokemon, Zelda, Super Mario. Super Mario especially is what I'm most passionate about, and what most Dave Falls will probably know me for is, like, you know, the Peach's Castle, blah 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 blah, and the Mario Play system. But that's just because the creativity of the world, the characters, the minimal bits of story, I guess, that come with it. It all just it sends a spark of wonder every time I play Super Mario Odyssey, and I learn something different that I never even thought of before, and the gameplay mechanics of it just hit every single button in my mind, and I appreciate it as a fan and as a creative. And like, watching the Super Mario movie was like just jelly on screen, perfect in most ways. I have some little gripes about whatever. So
it was the perfect fanboy movie.
Yeah. And a side tangent with that, I really wish that there was like have you seen it?
I have not seen it yet, no.
Okay, so I'll just say the Lego movie did a wonderful job of having a story to it with an undertone of like, whoa, this is really real. This, like, growing up and blah blah blah. Like, there's no like deep emotional story in the Mario movie, which you cannot expect, but I wish it had something like that. So that is one of my only complaints about it, but all of that continuously sparks joy in me, and that's where I lead my content to.
So what was your first game that you remember playing and putting like hours and hours and hours into?
Well, when I was younger and didn't have access to the internet because financial circumstances and just not having access to it, was probably Super Mario 64, from a sense of wanting to discover more about it, but just not being able to. And then Pokemon Snap, I would put hours into. I rented a lot of games from Blockbuster, which I'm sure a lot of you in here know, obviously. So finding a deep connection with a game was difficult. I do remember renting Lego Star Wars 2 multiple times to beat the entirety of it way back when, to the point where even now, playing the complete saga or even the Skywalker saga, I'm like, oh my God, I've seen this before. Please stop. I don't want to do this again, because it's just from my childhood. I played it for like, I got 100% on it. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
So that's where that shakes out.
Yeah. I mean, I remember N64 and Mario 64 specifically. People talk about like games and replayability being very important nowadays, and that wasn't as much of a thing back in the day because there were no options. It was like, here's the game, go play it. But I remember N64 being such a huge step forward with Super Mario Brothers, because the previous Super Mario Brothers was just play it until you beat it, because you only have so many lives, and beat it as fast as you can. That's all you could do. But Super Mario 64 was the first game that I played, I remember, being one that you felt like you could explore, and like it was different every time, and you could do things differently, and there were some levels, of course, the first few that you got to like memorize almost, but other ones you didn't play them as often, or they were deeper game levels, and it was a challenge every time, you know. So that was, to me, a big, like, one of those seminal game moments for me that stands out. You know, I still remember playing that game. But my favorite all time is still, like, earlier than that, was Super Nintendo. So, too many hours were spent playing Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past at my house.
Yeah, I love the freedom of jumping in a 3D space with Mario, and my audience always gives me flack for saying that I never bothered playing Ocarina of Time because you couldn't jump as Link.
Yeah,
Like, you just couldn't
yeah,
jump.
yeah.
You couldn't jump, and I'm like, that's stupid. I'll play Mario.
What do you mean there's no jumping mechanic? This doesn't make any sense.
How do you not be able to jump in a video game on command? This is dumb. All right, whatever.
It's
And
like the
I
most
never
basic.
bothered.
From the time they had one button, you could jump.
Yeah, I mean, really. And now you have what, Tears of the Kingdom, where it's like you can make robots. All right, cool. It's totally funny how it all changes, but yeah.
Yeah. So you touched on earlier the communities being built up, some relatively newer streamers to in the last couple of years that have brought a lot of chaos and personality to their streams, and how the Lego is really just secondary to the experience of the stream. So I'm wondering how you have evolved as a streamer in terms of like the way you decided to present yourself. You're family friendly. Was that always the case? How did you choose to be that way? What was your thought processes when you're thinking about your streaming style?
Yeah, so from a very early age, I want to say early age, but I definitely as I was getting more serious about turning this into a career and consistently, if I'm talking about Lego and video games, especially Nintendo games and Pokemon, to reach the most people in a meaningful way, it is not conducive for me to be dropping F and S bombs during my content. There's no exception to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that as not a hindrance like so many other creators do, but as a challenge to hone my skills as a professional content creator and deliver that in my videos and podcasts and live streams. So, some people say, oh, I could never, and that's totally fine. But when you turn on Jimmy Kimmel or Conan O'Brien, they are finding ways to make comedic bits happen without needing to swear or excessive profanity. And if I have this dream in the back of my head of being on that level in whatever capacity that means 10 years from now, that means I gotta challenge myself by being family friendly and whatever other titles come with that. So I took it in stride. And like I said, it makes sense for the content too.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest turning point there, but I haven't always been that way. Like the stuff that I leave buried in the chest of despair is the stuff that you mess around with as you're developing, and you're a young teenager and there's a Call of Duty, there's the whatever, and I'm like, this is not something that A, I'm proud of, B, is reflective of my skill today, and C, that I just don't want people seeing. It's nothing to me. Whereas the family friendly stuff from 2017-18 is still me, but it's a less polished version of me. It's less refined and less, even with me having this raspy voice right now, it's still a certain level of, the way I'm presenting myself. And I want that to be who I am today and moving forward. Yeah. So it's all a part of the evolution, obviously, but that's the stuff that I leave to the side and never really mention. And it's not out there anyway. It's all fine.
I remember I was actually in a stream just the other day, and I said specifically, family friendly means a lot of different things. You can be family friendly and not appropriate for a 6-year-old or not appropriate for a 10-year-old or whatever, right? So there's a lot of variance even in that kind of generic kind of phrasing. You mentioned that some people find it a hindrance. So, and maybe Call of Duty, do you think that if you were playing other of those games like Call of Duty, any of more kind of adult oriented games that you would have, like, let's say you found success doing that, or that was your initial passion, do you think you would still try to be family friendly, or is it marries really with the content and the games you're playing?
No, I wouldn't be family friendly at all, because it doesn't make sense for somebody to be watching the content where Arthur Morgan from Red Dead 2 is shooting someone in the head and me to be like, oopsie daisy, this is really not it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So the content should reflect the morals that you share as a creator. Like, this is gonna get weird for a half second, but some people will be like, oh, I'm sure you want your dream wife, Brian, to be in that Princess Peach outfit and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it is literally church and state in my mind where like, that is not at all what it's not what I want. We'll keep the pure and the unpure, and we're going to leave it as that. And that applies to content and, my future fictitious wife, but that's
I mean, I will say one thing I've always been impressed about in your stream, and my limited experience in terms of the variety of streamers that I have, hung out with and spent significant time in, I always equated your stream to being like watching Shrek, because it's a film, and for me Shrek kind of stands out as one of the first that was a film that was kind of quote unquote made for kids, but walked the line entertaining parents and adults as well. And I think you're the best I've seen at walking that line of keeping things clean but entertaining and bordering on what might be not family friendly, because the innuendo is slightly there, but only an adult will get it, not a young kid. So you're not breaking that that moral compass, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think I've been pretty loose with that recently, and I haven't really. I'm like, I should probably dial it back or reel it in a little bit. Like there's some things that I'm like, I should not, whatever. But it is mostly involving the people that I know can take that sort of joke. But if there's somebody in the chat that I'm like, you're probably a mom who sees me dancing on Just Dance and thinks it's really weird, I'm not gonna push that barrier. But if it's that one person who I know has a very particularly dirty mind and would appreciate me going a little bit further with that joke, Bree, then I would go ahead and say something like that.
That's fair, and I think that's a credit to you, knowing your audience as well, right? Like knowing where you can push it, how far you can take things, while still keeping things in the right direction without letting them go to the gutter. And I think any streamer that's getting started kind of has to first of all define where those lines are, but then might struggle to kind of manage the chat. Have you ever had instances where you were like, not yourself personally, but maybe chat was going in a wrong direction and you didn't have the experience yet to like rein them in? Any of those kind of experiences where you had to learn the hard way how to be family friendly and stay in that box?
I've been very thankful to have a wonderful moderation team and VIPs and people that have my best interest at heart from almost the very beginning, that can like very easily gauge what is and is not okay to say and keeping that in line. The conversation generally doesn't go in a odd direction, and that's on me. I am in charge of a ship and where the conversation goes, and it's up to me to make sure it's going in the right spot. The only times it has gone to a different direction is when I'm doing Fireside Fridays, which is like a real talk chat that I have, and most of the would-be kids are asleep or they don't know what's going on, and they're like, this is boring, I'm gonna go play Fortnite, and then they go play Fortnite. And then it's just I wish I was kidding. So it'll be the adults who are like, oh no, we get it, all right. But it never dives into politics, religion, income status, the general things that are like, hey, it's not that I'm not capable as a person of talking about them and having a mature conversation, but with what I'm doing, that is not the focal point of my content and what I want to bring to the table. So, and that's just my decision. But if you get me in the hotel lobby of the Renaissance in Schaumburg, Illinois, in Brick World, and you want to talk about X, Y, or Z, maybe, but not while I'm playing Minecraft or Mario Odyssey. Not going to happen.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Again, it's like it's integrating all of the content and you presenting yourself. It's all together as one versus having any kind of breaks or dichotomy in there. So you mentioned Brick World a couple times and alluded to kind of conversations you had over there. What's it been like for you as a creator? You said you went to Brick World your first time, I think 2017, you said?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. What's it been like for you as a creator, kind of who was there early on in the game, right? Seeing the explosion of Lego as a streaming medium, of the brick building community growing up around Lego, or around Twitch, I mean. What's it been like for you, who was kind of there at the very beginning, seeing how this has evolved?
It's you kind of got me thinking for a second because I don't know what the first convention or when the first convention I went to was. May have been 20. It might have been 2018 with like smaller Lego shows that didn't have the same fire and passion as Brick World. If I'm being totally honest with you, so my perception of it has been very lackluster from a show standpoint because I go to the Penny Arcade Expo in Boston, which has 80,000 people attending it, and I've been going to that since 2013. So I feel small fry when I'm at PAX East, but I feel like I'm the biggest fish in the pond when I'm going to Brick Fair, Massachusetts, whatever it is. So I was not impressed with the show aspect of it by comparison of what I'm used to, not the creations, not the people, but the show aspect and what it delivers. So I was fairly lackluster, I guess, on all of it. But as it's developed and I've really honed in, especially over this past weekend, I can't reaffirm that enough with Brick World Chicago being the way that it is and knowing the people behind it and the intent behind it and the presentation of it all. It feels it has the most potential out of any of them, and it is with how they run it and most importantly the people that are there, the best displayers from all around the world collaborating on creations that are twice your height and my height combined, and not having just the introverted creative builders there, but the media personalities, the social media influencers, whatever word you want to use, who bring that extroverted energy, that yang to the yin that you need to make something like that successful. And that's where it really shines. And the Twitch community does that in spades, whether you have 1 million followers or 100 followers. You know, there are people I had wonderful conversations with, like Scotty Rotten over this past weekend. Like, that's a guy I'm like, yeah, I want to, like, talking over a chat is fine, but I get to sit down. I can get up out of the booth and give him a hug when I see him. And that to me means way more than being in some, for lack of a better term, rinky-dink show in Western Massachusetts. And I love every second of it.
Yeah. You know, you've mentioned like introversion versus extroversion, and early on you mentioned how like your main goal initially was really just to connect with people, right? It was the gaming and the content creation on YouTube was to try to connect with people. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Do you know which way you kind of lean in that sense?
There's days where I feel like everything is collapsing and I don't want to get out of bed and nobody talk to me, and some days where I can't walk 3 minutes without running into somebody I know, and I love it, and I love every second of it. I have not had I haven't had the best, I'll just say childhood. I haven't had the best childhood. So when I meet somebody new that enters my sphere, I'm not immediately like, hi friendo.
Yeah.
No. I am very apprehensive and very guarded and very like, okay, what do you want? Which is an awful way of thinking of it, and I'm obviously working on it. And when I go to Brick World, I see the 5 people that I know and love, and they introduce me to 5 people that they know and love, and I'm like, all right, you have the stamp of approval, all right. And then it just kind of goes out from there, right? So that extroversion only shines when I have my people, whoever they may be, to be there alongside me to help, shepherd me through to people or conversations and take it from there. Otherwise, I am very quiet, which some people have been very surprised by. Oh, Brian's quiet. Like, he constantly talks and everything he does. He won't shut up, But I'm very, I guess, not self-reflective. I don't know. Introverted wouldn't necessarily be I guess it would be the word. I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's, yeah.
You might be introverted, but you're social at the same time.
I love carrying conversations with wonderful people and I value that person-to-person interaction more, and anytime more than being on a computer screen, which is why I was trying to bully you into going to Chicago next year, which I hope it's successful. But
Well, you
we'll
successfully
see.
bullied a lot of people to go this year, so now you just got to
I
expand that
did, and
reach,
it
right?
worked out really well. They had a great time, Ty. You know what I'm
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
saying?
No, I get it. I hear you. I hear you. And yet, it's funny. Like I just kind of said, expanding your reach, and you touched on it with the Brick World conversation, in terms of the like influencer style people. You know, like as a content creator, like they're creating a whole different kind of content that is more that influencer style. Like, how have you adapted to that? Like, have you done a little more of that on that style of content creation, um, or have you mostly stuck to similar ways you've done your clips and your highlights and stuff like that, as a streamer?
I think the ability to convey yourself to a wider audience in a meaningful way is a skill that transcends any medium, whether it be Lego or games or otherwise. And you know, if the way that I'm going to reach the most people on an impactful level is through Lego, cool. If it's through video games, even better.
Mm-hmm.
If it's by giving up both and being a XYZ, fantastic. But as long as I'm not compromising my morals, integrity, or outlook in the process of doing that, which is important for everybody to have.
Yeah.
So none of it is it's an allegiance, obviously, to my interest and my passions, but I refuse to, I guess, be like, hey, I'm gonna make my content only about this multi-billion-dollar corporation that
Mm-hmm.
is faceless. I don't agree with that at all. It is the people behind that and the creative projects that I'm working on that continue to drive me and push me and influence how I do things. And if the people aren't there behind it, then it gets really difficult to do any other part of the process.
Mm-hmm. You've mentioned several times when we talked about the book, we talked about streaming and your mod team, how it's the people around you that have helped you build up, your success in whatever you're doing. You've also mentioned, if you were going to make that book and you need to learn to illustrate by yourself, a lot of streaming is also kind of DIY, do your own tech support, do your own whatever, right? Learning as you go. How do you balance those things? You mentioned being a bit guarded. How do you attract people that will help you with these things? It's a real, I think, challenge for a lot of people to kind of find, what do I do myself? What can I let other people or trust other people to do? How have you approached that?
A lot of it, as I have talked with Christopher Gearhart of Bricker Builds, who I do some stuff for on the side. He's a business owner, operator, and I'm like, dude, you create all these models and have this little marketing team and get to go to a con and blah blah blah. Like, how do you balance all this stuff? Because he's working with way more people than I am in terms of like a solid team. And he's like, I'm walking in the dark, and when I hit a wall, I go a different way, and then I hit that wall, I go a different way, and I just kind of go. And that's all you can really honestly do, unless you have a business mentor and definitive procedures in place for things like, hey, I want to open up an LLC and become a business. How do I do that? There's 1,000 tutorials. That's by the books. That's like legal. Like, yes, there are ways to get that done, but how can I find trustworthy people to be on my moderators? It's a lot of like, you figure it out. And it's through trial and error. It's having people on a trial basis and evaluating if they're a good fit, if they're fitting the vibe, and if they're not, then that's okay. They'll fit the vibe for somebody else, and you'll find somebody else. And doing that over and over again, you get a better emotional intelligence and sense of how people are going to behave and take a guess. Like, I have my intuition of like, okay, you are my future best friend, or no, you're a snake and you just want to use me as a connection for whatever. And I've been able to easily identify both, and I'm like, yep, okay. Yeah. So it's having that skill and kept in the back of your mind, not allowing it to make decisions from the get, but always being able to pivot when you need to. And the technical stuff is way easier than the people stuff. because it's out there. My camera's not working in OBS. Elgato probably has a tutorial on their website, or Nutty did that, or whoever did that, right? So that's easy, but you will attract the type of people that you do. And if you're like, man, I'm surrounded by a bunch of bleeps, then maybe you're a bleep and you got to tweak some things, or go to places where you won't find more of those Goombas and cakes, as I put them.
You mentioned several times like the skill aspect of it, whether it's, you know, the type of content you're creating, the connection with an audience, the, you know, developing a mod team. How have you kind of developed those skills? Have you looked back, let's say, for example, just streaming and the content, the way you present yourself, do you go back and look at your VODs, or like in the early days you maybe did more of it? Like how did you improve as a streamer, like consciously? Did that just kind of happen naturally, or?
Yeah, I think that whole 10,000 hours thing definitely is a part of it, and just knowing what things work and don't work, and articulating yourself in a meaningful way. It is a certain part of it is not a skill that can be taught in a classroom, like somebody saying, how do I be funny? You're asking the wrong question. Like the most famous comedians in the world would be like, if you're asking that question, you're doing something wrong. Like it's just part of it. And you know, whether your answer is channeling your life experiences or understanding comedic timing, like there's a way around it. I have facilitated myself in this manner through trial and error, and I attribute it to having a really strong emotional intelligence growing up, where I can see somebody struggling, and instead of thinking sucks for you and just do my thing, I'm like, how can I get on this person's level and uplift them? Or how can I connect A to B with these people and make a meaningful bridge, and a strong passion for caring about those people, whether it be volunteering or a business connection or anything. Like when I went and introduced person A to person B in Brick World, I'm like, this is my favorite part of the whole thing, because you never know what might come of it, and that is super exciting. And the parts that make this the absolute most worthwhile to me are obviously not the fat stacks of cash I'm currently swimming in, as you can tell, but it's knowing that there's at least one person who has met their significant other over Twitch, and it's because their kids were involved in my videos and wanted to stream themselves and meet these people. And knowing that and my ability to connect these people means everything to me. It makes every single bit of it worth it, and it would not have started without that emotional intelligence, that little seed that I had. Either from, I think it's probably my grandmother on my mother's side who really instilled that in me, but I don't necessarily know where it came from.
Just develops over time, like so many things that you develop, you know, as a young person. It kind of starts with a seed and develops without your conscious effort, maybe, and then it becomes something you're even more aware of later on. It reminds, I was actually listening to a podcast earlier today. It was an interview with Robert Downey Jr., and I literally paused it so I could write this down, because he said that we help each other consciously or not, but I guess that means we can also hurt each other consciously or not. Right. And so what you mentioned there very specifically is you know, the desire to help, and I would wager that you've probably been a positive influence on people that you don't know more often than people that you are aware of it, you know. Just knowing the stream and the positive vibes from the stream that I get from you.
One of my favorite moments of Brick World was when I had a mother, the first person that approached me at the booth, and it was a mother and her son, and like I can just see her face in my mind right now thinking of it, because she was so emotional about how much of a positive influence I was on her son, and to please tell my mother that she did a good job raising me. Oh man, I get you can't tell, but I'm getting choked up thinking about it. You can't tell because my voice is shot, but whenever I think about that, I'm like, man, like here is a mother that I've never met, a kid I've never met, and they are being so impacted by my work, my creative energy, my experiences, and me honing all of this, what has been negative energy in my life, just honing all of it in to this positive thing that are gaming videos, which can be written off as whatever, but then to be impacted in that way by it, and the experiences that my mother has had raising me, and the journey that, like, it's all of it coming together. And like, we're strangers, they don't know me, they don't know what I think about at 1 o'clock in the morning in this office, but they love what I do enough to say that to me, and that means everything.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's the amazing kind of feedback you don't get often enough, but when you do get it, it sticks with you, you know. And
typing it on a screen, you can't. Mr. O'Brien, I'm a fan of your videos. Hey, thanks, kid. Cool. But then, you know, when I see them in real life and they're like, ah! I can't even scream to convey like their reaction, and it makes it makes all of the failures worth it, at least for a little while, until I get more failures, and then I got to remind myself. But
I mean, that's the, you mentioned yin and yang, that's the up and down of any kind of impact you have on people when you're consciously trying to have that impact. You know, for sure. When you're trying to have that positive force, you know, for people, you don't know who it's touching, and you don't always get to hear that feedback. You just have to have some kind of belief that's what's happening, you know?
Yeah. And that applies to anybody and everybody, which shouldn't, you know, that lack of affirmation shouldn't be a detractor for people out there, because you never know. And bringing your best self to the table as a creator will bring wonderful things your way, but a lot of it is working in silence. It's like 10 years to be an overnight success, you know? Same idea.
Yeah. And I think from a mindset point of view, it's so much easier for people to dwell on the failures or the experiments that didn't work than it is to remember, you know, those interactions, which is why it's so important that you remind yourself of them in those downtimes at 1 a.m. when things didn't go so good today, or, you know, you have some idea that's struggling to come to fruition. On that note, what is a day like for you in terms of content creation? Like, do you have set periods where you're like, I'm gonna think of ideas? Do you have a streaming schedule? Like, what is a day like, you know, a day in the life of BricksOBrian? What is that like for you?
Starts with an hour of self-loathing every day.
That seems like not true.
It's up to you to believe me or not. No, it starts with me waking up ideally at a reasonable hour, not at 11 a.m. But the days vary from day to day because I focus on larger projects or bigger ideas that are not set in stone, which a lot of this job is figuring it out, whatever figuring it out means. So, you know, one day I'm uploading listings to Whatnot to have the Bob auction too. Or it means I'm sitting down for 3 hours and getting a whole bunch of Legend of Zelda videos done, or responding to emails or shipping out books or whatever. So there's rarely a time that things are set in stone and flexible. Streaming is one of them. And that is where my discipline comes in, where I don't care if I'm having a bad day, good day, whatever. I'm going to level with the audience on that and say, hey, and I've done this plenty of times where I start off the stream and I'm like, hey, I've had a really bad day. I don't know how I'm going to fare by the end of this, but if you have any extra vibes, energy, I'd appreciate them. And then I feel great by the end of it. Some days during the stream, it goes awfully and I feel really bad about it. And those days happen too. But the discipline I have comes with live streaming, especially getting video content out on YouTube as often as I can. And most importantly, that discipline is staying true to the projects I have in mind, which now that the book is a successful thing that people enjoy, you know, people probably would like another one, and people would probably enjoy another massive celebration live stream, or like this or like that. And it's on me to think of those things and stay true to that vision and that part of the consistency, consistently delivering above and beyond my comfort zone, whatever that means.
Sure. So the fact that it's fairly flexible depending on the exact project of the day, meetings you might have. Like I said, you're your own marketing staff. You're looking to get the book, published elsewhere, or write the next one, or all that other stuff that you're doing. Are there any kind of routines or habits you have that you try to stick to every day? Whether it's like, I'm going to take a break at 2 o'clock every day, or is there anything you do like that just to help moderate some of the what I would say is probably a pretty frenetic pace, bouncing from idea to idea?
Yeah, I try to get a bunch of the little things out of the way first, like emails and whatever, because, responding to those in the morning gets it kind of going throughout the day, and it'll transition into graphic design stuff. I've noticed actually that's the trend. Like, I'll start with the stuff that I know I can do, and it doesn't require a lot of brain power. It's just getting the words out. Then it's graphic design work if I'm doing the stream schedule, thumbnails, things like that, where I don't have to physically talk. Then it'll transition into some video stuff where I'm more awake and alive, because rarely am I doing something that requires me to be on at 9 o'clock in the morning. So that'll end up being the case. If I'm streaming, I'm streaming. If I'm doing the game nights on Patreon through Discord, I'm doing that. That's typically the routine, is those sorts of things in that order. It is all done with physical notebooks where I put out all of my plans and stuff. I've done digital planners and stuff before. It doesn't resonate with me. I like physically writing the thing, checking it off, crossing it off, and tossing it to the wind. And that keeps me in line more than you would think, actually.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. I'm a big fan of like, I'll take notes in my phone, like of like a quote or of something like that. But when it's a to-do list or an idea for the stream or something, I will write it down physically here. And it might take me a month to act on an idea, but it's there written down, and there's a physical reminder to, oh, I'm going to do that, or maybe I'll reconsider something. But I'm a big fan of writing things down, like physically, pen and paper or pencil or whatever it is, to keep on track and to keep a record of these ideas and how things have gone. Can you give examples of maybe an idea you've had, not anything you're working on currently, but anything you tried and it didn't work out so well, and maybe afterwards you knew why, or redid it and tried again, or something like that? Because we talked about how with content creation and any kind of, well, almost any project, any work project, there's going to be some ideas that go well and some ideas that don't. And like, what was your process for rebounding from some of these not so great ideas that you've had?
I'll give two completely different examples. One of them, as I mentioned before, was my plush that I was working on. I tried to get that out for my birthday celebration. I typically have on Twitch the Bob Bonanza as like a, hey, you can pre-order this thing, and it can become reality if a certain amount of people do it. And that failed because the people that were working on it from the very first time changed hands in terms of businesses. Like, somebody bought somebody else out, and my project got forgotten about when it was supposed to launch, and it was going to be really expensive, have to sell this many and blah blah blah. And I'm like, you know what, you guys aren't paying attention to what I had put in the books months ago, and this is not where I want to take my business. We are concluded doing business. And then looking into resources myself, getting something manufactured directly with a factory, they didn't have the creative sense for what I wanted for the character, where a lot of my creative process is, okay, here's, let's say a pile of 10 Lego bricks, make a dinosaur. And then they make like, Ghidorah from Godzilla. And I'm like, well, that's a dinosaur, but I'm thinking more like a T-Rex. And then they're like, I'm gonna make a Pokemon. And it's like, I make a dinosaur. So it's a lot of back and forth and creative brainstorming. And my vision wasn't being communicated properly, either through language barrier or whatever. And they just weren't getting it. And if you work with my art style as a artist, the art style for BricksOBrian and the accompanying characters is kind of difficult, like Lego is. I'm sure you've seen a lot of weird looking Lego figures drawn, and you're like, something doesn't look quite right.
Yeah, that's not quite right. Yeah.
Is same thing with my stuff, and that's why Kevin's so good at it, because he knows my stuff and I trust him with it. And a few people do, but not everybody does. So they certainly did not. And I'm like, you know what? Instead of trying to convey this, I'm just going to let this be and pick this up at a point where I can make all 4 characters in one go. But that's a different story. The other instance where I failed was not even necessarily a failure, but when I was doing some hosting work for a Lego convention called BrickFest Live. They were looking for an on-stage presence that would interview Lego masters, get kids excited about being there, do some building activities and whatever. And either it was because I was not energetic enough, or I didn't have the right cadence or approach, or because I'm a 27-year-old guy who's entertaining kids, which some people find weird, but thankfully most people don't, that I just wasn't the right fit for it. I think mostly it was because I just didn't vibe with the people that were running the show. And the Bubble of All puts BME in the chat, and the BME comes from when I had a conversation with one of the guys about, my performance. I'm like, hey, what did you want from me? And they're like, we're really looking for someone who just really gets out there and is like, really crazy, kind of like Muppet energy, like a big Muppet energy sort of deal. Like that's what we're looking for. And they brought me on knowing who I am and what I do, and I exude energy, but not big Muppet energy, but whatever. So that was more so I wasn't a right fit for it. And that wasn't a knock on my skill or my ability to host and whatever. It's just like, it's not a right fit. And then there will be something else that is. And what that is, I don't know. I still find that there's situations, even literally over the weekend, where I'm like, I feel like I'm not cut out for this. And I had a moment of reflection where I'm like, I'm not cut out for this because I'm not good enough. And that is a continuous thought in here, no matter how many people tell me otherwise, but it is always rattling in here. So anyways.
Yeah, I mean that's not a rare thing. A lot of people will have some of those negative thoughts come in, and it's learning to deal with it and turn things around when you can. But I like what you said about the fit for that particular job, and you try things on and they don't all fit. And as a creator, I think that's what a lot of it is I'm going to try this, didn't work out, the audience wasn't there, I didn't like it, and recognizing what fits with you. And I think one of the themes we've had throughout this whole chat was you kind of growing as a streamer and recognizing what fits with your passions. How does the stream content work around the things I like to stream, the games I like to play? How does that all get married together? And what is the best fit? And you try things and maybe they don't fit so good sometimes, but you just, okay, now I'll try something else. Or I know that I can host an event like this, just not this one, because I don't have big Muppet energy. I, have Brian energy. If that's what they want, I will give them that,
Right. I absolutely. And when I talk with somebody about it, it makes so much more sense. But a lot of my work is done alone, since entrepreneurship is a generally lonely path, and you follow your own rhythm to your own drum, and relating to people is very tough sometimes, where I sit alone in this office at 10 o'clock at night and I'm like, is it all worth it, whatever? And it's not until I message a friend or somebody and I'm like, hey, I'm having a moment. So that's another part of all this, is people are gonna doubt themselves, but being able to ask for that help and get outside of your circle in your head, that's invaluable. And being at a place like a convention or a gathering of some kind allows you to remember that. So I know everybody's financial situations are different and ability to travel is different, but if there's a place, whether it be Brickworld or otherwise, where you can connect with those people on a consistent basis to energize you, and as an introvert or extrovert, finding those people in places is key to your success, and more importantly, your sanity as a person.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a place also where I think like hobbies would come in, having something that is, just for you. And again, another thing that stuck with me randomly in one of your streams, talking about how, when you're a content creator, literally anything could be content if you want to try to make it content. So like, what hobbies do you have, or stuff that you kind of keep more to yourself, as this is for my time, my me time, not my I'm going to use this for content down the road, or I might use it for content, so I'm going to try it out. Do you have anything you turn to like that?
Sleeping.
That's fair. I mean, nothing wrong with taking a nap when you need a break.
I wish I was kidding. That's the gift and the curse of playing video games for a living is, typically that's people's outlets, and it's definitely not for me.
Mhm.
And with a game, it can either be like, I gotta play through this, or I gotta wait until I do it on camera, which is the case with Tears of the Kingdom for me. I'm like, man, I could beat this game in an entire 10 days, but I have to pace myself. So the hobbies that I generally have are like hanging out with friends and going on trips or activities and being a part of just different social situations that put me out of my boundaries.
Yeah.
But Lego, more recently, the actual building of it has been wonderful, and I can enjoy that for myself. I bought the Indiana Jones Temple of the Golden Idol, and I didn't do a single thing about it. I just built it for myself, and it's on a shelf for now. But I have found myself in the most recent months really enjoying the creative process as a hobby that then turns into a job. Like thinking, on my drive home, like, if all my pet pals in my book were to turn into X, Y, and Z and their origin story, what would it be? Like getting lost in that is where my creative juice, like it just comes from, and I enjoy it. And that's never work, thinking about those sort of things. But then deciding what does go on the page and does reach out beyond my mind, that becomes the work. So it's a weird position, I guess, to think about all that.
Yeah, I think most creatives would relate to that, in that the work part is sometimes translating some of those ideas or thoughts into something that is tangible, but the thinking about those things is the easy part, is the fun part, more than anything. And you mentioned like having a very variable routine, but being committed to, this is my live stream period, I've scheduled this, I'm going to do it. How do you kind of identify, aside from like a streaming schedule based on whatever other things you have going on that week, where do you identify your priorities like that? Aside from the streaming schedules, are other things you say, okay, this is number one thing for this week, number two thing, like do you go through that process regularly, or is that just, again, fairly organic in terms of whatever's kind of in the fire at the moment?
Yeah, I think that's a struggle for me, and it's a struggle for most. Some things make themselves very obvious, like, hey, I have this event coming up in a few weeks. I need to make a post about this an event and remind people and focus the energy into that. When it comes to video content, there's so many different avenues where I can record a video specifically for YouTube to then be out to Roku and Kadoodle, or I can chop up my live stream into making little clips, or send that over to Kirk to make into smaller bits or whatever. All of it is important in its own ways. And at least for me in the past couple months, and especially since the book has come out, the book has become and presented itself as a lasting, something that lasts beyond my relevancy as BricksOBrian. What that means is, if I am a 75-year-old man, should I be playing Super Mario Odyssey 4 on a live stream, or can I build something, whatever that thing is, to outlive me that people can enjoy and appreciate over time? And that's where I see the most potential and admittedly the most joy, in that all of this content creation about Lego or Nintendo is basically free advertising for them in a lot of ways, which sounds really bad, but it is, where like, hey, I'm building this Lego set, and obviously we're the people behind them and we're bringing the personality and everything, but being able to create something of your own based on your own experiences is very fun and scary and valuable and awesome. And so I recognize that challenge and have taken it, and so far people have really enjoyed it. And I look forward to the day, which it's actually getting very close now, where you look at my background and you don't see a bunch of Nintendo and Lego stuff, but you see the original characters that have consumed my world. And I can't wait till my background is entirely that day, and I'm moving toward that. And every part of it is, you know, custom creations that people have made me, and perler bead ornament of my face that one of my moderators made me. I didn't make that myself, by the way. I'm not that egotistical. My moderator made that. It's a gift. So, you know, those things have proven themselves more valuable, and I love those.
I love that you're, you know, not that old and already thinking of legacy. How can I make these things that are going to affect people beyond these streams, because I'm not going to be streaming forever, you know?
I think that makes me, I don't want to, I'm not going to toot my own horn in that way, but like, not enough people think about that sort of thing at all. And I've always thought about my legacy as a person and how I impact people. I've always done that. And I think that comes with the emotional intelligence that I've had since I was young. Like, how do my actions, good or bad, impact people? And I have absolutely omitted experiences because I knew whether that person or situation realized it or not, by me being involved, is not conducive to a core memory that's good, or like, you know, like it's just not, that's not whatever. So like, I think about it and admittedly think about it too much, where I should go out and, you know, take those chances and be out there and blah, 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 blah. But I think about that constantly, and I look forward. I mean, end of the day, everybody has their time on this earth, cherishes it, makes those connections, and everybody has I don't want to say a shelf life on their name or their legacy, but it's not forever, where you die twice, once when you're buried and then when the last time your name is mentioned, right? So I know already, and I knew at age 22, 21, I have impacted more people through my passion being showcased to the world than some people may ever have in their entire lives, and I'm unbelievably grateful for it. And now I'm thinking, well, how can I make more people happy? How can I bring myself to the forefront and lift the people up with me? Most important part, lifting those other people up with me who are overwhelmingly talented and deserve the spotlight, like Kevin and Brick and Nick and my friends, my homies, my people. Like, let's bring them all up. Like, that's what I want to be the ability to do, to sit in a meeting with a multi-billion-dollar organization. I'm like, you know, this doesn't happen without this person and this person and this person. Like, Scholastic approaches me to publish the book, Kevin's the artist, or I walk away, done. Like, that's what I want to be able to do, but not there yet. So until then.
I mean, but that's the whole like difference between, you know, big picture goals, you know, big scary dreams versus just kind of, I'm going to stream and see what happens. And you know, I'm sure when you first started, maybe your dream wasn't necessarily to write a kid's book, but that is the natural evolution of your desire to help and lift people up, you know, so it makes sense that would be part of it.
And the response I've gotten from people has been so, like I've said, so positive, and it is a natural step in what I want to do. And that's what I would encourage for everybody who's listening and watching. Like, you may have a job, you may have your obligations to your family, work, life, whatever it might be. There is something you can do that pushes you to that next level, instead of just being a Twitch streamer or just being that podcaster, or just like, you may be comfortable in your spot. We got one life to live. And if you have a thing that you are fired up about, it is, in my opinion, your obligation as a human being to make that thing come to reality, because that's how any of this works in the first place. What if Ole Kirk Christensen didn't build the duck and it turned into Lego? We wouldn't be here. So like, don't think that all the good ideas are gone, or that all the successful people have already done it. I am by no means successful to the level that I want to be, or that a lot of people may perceive me to be, I am still a peon, a very, very, very small peon in the grand scheme of it all. And I know that, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be here forever, and that I don't have the energy, the passion, and the effort to keep persevering through all these adversities I've undergone. I do. And I encourage that for every single one of you out there, to remain fired up about whatever it is you are, and don't allow a billion-dollar company, your boss, your parents, your whoever, to dull that shine and to just shine on.
Wow.
That got deep real quick. I'm sorry.
That is incredible. That's what I want. I want of these things.
There you go. I deliver even when I'm hoarse.
Yeah,
my voice is hoarse.
That's exactly the kind of thing that I want to build to, and that's why we have these conversations, because different people have different definitions of what success for them looks like, the passions they want to chase, the dreams they want to achieve, and having chased dreams myself, having achieved lifelong goals before I was 35, okay, now what do I do after that? That's what I want. What's the legacy that I have? What's the legacy that each person can have beyond just going to work 9 to 5, and for some people, going to work 9 to 5 is having a legacy, and
yeah,
like you said, it's the connections we make, it's the people we affect beyond us, so your book inspires someone to become a professional gamer, content creator, and it might not be something they even remember or acknowledge, but it is the catalyst to somebody doing something great, and that's, again, part of your legacy, whether you know it or not, right? So that is both an incredible attitude for you to have personally, but also to be encouraging others to chase those dreams, chase those passions. I think that too many times we are told, and we tell ourselves the stories, that those dreams aren't worth chasing, or those goals aren't realistic, and we're told to be safe, and to a certain degree you need some kind of safety, right? But
I think chasing dreams is stupid. It's wonderfully stupid, and it's so unrealistic, and you should but that's life, and that's what makes it fun.
Yeah,
so go do it anyways.
Do it anyways. Should you? Probably not, but do it anyway.
Yeah, you could either take a risk by chasing your dreams and putting yourself out there to the world, or you could be an axe murderer. You're changing the world one way. You think an axe murderer wakes up and is like, man, I'm changing the world today. Like, pick a side.
Yeah.
Go for it. It. Don't let anyone tell you this. Don't kill people. Go live your life.
That's a very different advice and a very different level there, from chasing your dreams to don't kill people.
Well, some people, they make an impact by making a negative one. So don't make a negative one. You're going to make an impact either way. So just...
Yeah. Make the positive impact. Seek to do that, for others. And
exactly.
You're gonna end up being okay. This has been an amazing chat, and we'll continue it a little bit off stream, so to speak, off podcast, so to speak, afterwards. But where can people find your book, find you? I know you have a website. Shout out your socials, where people who maybe don't know of you yet, who discover you here, can find you.
If you say Pro Gamer's Guide in the mirror 3 times, I'll appear behind you with a paperback copy you can buy on Amazon. No, that's true. Well, you can find me anywhere across the internet: YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Roku, Kadoodle, as BricksOBrian. My work as a author can be seen at progamersguide.com. You can purchase, like I said, your paperback copy on Amazon today, with more happening in the very near future. So just stay tuned.
Excellent. Thanks so much. It's been a wonderful conversation. And chat, don't worry, it's going to continue. But it's been great chatting with you, and we'll continue chatting. It's been like you said at the very beginning of this, a long time coming, and everything I hoped it would be to dig into your brain and get more out of it.
Absolutely, everybody. Go out there, shine on, and keep on meowing it out. Thank you for having me, Ty.
My pleasure. Okay, as we'll address chat, guys in chat and girls in chat, and everyone else. Thank you so much for being here and leaving your comments in the chat. Of course, we were not addressing you, but we can address some stuff now if you want to ask more questions, make more comments. Saw a lot of love in the chat. I'm going to just do a quick thank you for all of the bits and the follows and the stuff that went on while we were doing this. Very much appreciated.
You did awesome. That was a lot of fun, man.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I love doing this. It's one of the reasons I wanted to do it, and definitely inspired by more and more's streams, his crossing the stream stuff, but also knowing I cherish the one-on-one interactions more than the group interactions.
Yeah.
So for me, that is one of my quite honestly challenges with streaming. Everybody who's in my stream a lot knows that I don't keep up with chat very well. I'm much better one-on-one than I am in a group.
Yeah.
But we have one question, and this is going to go to the chat. You get to choose the category: books, movies and TV, or music.
Ooh. Am I asking chat?
No, I'm asking a question. Chat can also answer it, but you choose the category.
I'm sorry, it was books, movies
and TV, or music.
Music.
What is well, we'll go with something easy. Top 3 artists, bands, whoever of all time.
I have found myself very recently very much gravitating toward Macklemore.
Oh, 10,000 Hours.
Seattle. Oh yeah, absolutely. 10,000 hours.
That is such a great song. I mean he's got more than that, but that thing is just always in my head. Yeah, sorry, continue.
That's a I mean, it's on the top of the heist, but that's not a fair weather cut there, Ty. Nice. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Macklemore. Eminem's been very, he's very like angry. So, I relate more to him for sure nowadays. Linkin Park by far. I was in Vegas when I heard about Chester Bennington's passing, and I was not the same that whole trip.
Yeah,
totally. It messed me up.
It's amazing how, a lot of people do meet their music icons, but someone you've never met can affect you so deeply, that when you find out about them passing, that it affects you that deeply.
And that hasn't happened very often. The only other time that happened was with when the president of Nintendo passed away, Satoru Iwata, who was behind many of the craziest games that I've ever enjoyed, passed away. I was really messed up by that.
And that speaks volumes to your. People say they love games or love Nintendo or love whatever, but the fact that you were that emotionally connected is pretty great.
Yeah, and then just from a general enjoyment standpoint, I'd say Imagine Dragons.
Oh, honestly, I haven't heard them in a while. They kind of they have a pretty good music library, especially as they've developed over the years. I mean, there's other artists that in the past, Lupe Fiasco, another hip hop artist from Chicago that I love, more so earlier music library, but going based off of everything, those are the 3. Yeah. Interesting. So, it's pretty eclectic. Would you say there's like a specific time period that you gravitate the most towards, like music-wise?
Ooh, it generally sways between. I think with any music, it's about when you discover the music. So for me, it was being a teenager up until 25 that I really am like, here's where I'm discovering the most of my music. And now I'm kind of stuck in this time period. It goes from early 2000s, 80s, 90s. There is something about the 80s and the sound from all the pop music from then. I'm like, this is, when you turn on Power of Love, it just hits. It hits differently than anything else. That don't need a credit card or right on this. Totally different. And I'm like, man, nothing hits like this.
Some of those
And I wasn't
power
even alive.
ballads are
Yeah.
they don't, it doesn't get better.
Not even close. And I don't know what it is, but like, yeah, like even when I was a kid in like the mid 2000s, I'm like, nah, stuff doesn't hit like it did back then.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to say, since we're on the topic of the 80s, like, as an 80s kid, a young 80s kid, like, Bon Jovi probably has to be in my top 3 all time.
Yeah.
Mostly not because of anything recent, but mostly because I know like every word to every song for his first 5 albums. Like, it just based on that, it's hard for me to say, no, he's not my favorite anymore. Well, maybe not,
Right.
but he was at one point, you know. Anytime you know that many songs by an artist, they have to be up there, you know.
Right.
Anyway.
Bree asking the favorite oldies artist. If you consider Aerosmith oldies,
Yeah, how do you define oldies? Because a lot of people consider 90s music oldies at this point. So
I'd
you know.
say like bulk of their remarkable catalog being 30 plus years old.
Mm-hmm. I would go like,
So-
if we're looking at like classic rock, I would go with like Led Zeppelin as the obvious choice, and it seems cliche. You know, if you go far enough back to get to the Beatles, it's like the obvious choice there. Led Zeppelin's probably the obvious choice, you know, in that era. But they're the ones who, when I think of like classic rock, they're the ones that I think of. You know, anything earlier than like mid 80s and on is probably Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, for sure.
Give me one for each decade: 70s, 80s, and 90s.
All right, Bree, I don't have that brain
Wow,
power.
my
lady.
God.
Oh my goodness.
I'm
Jeez.
assuming I'm gonna say Led Zeppelin is 70s, right? They're probably late 60s and 70s. I don't even know their exact timeline. 80s, I said Bon Jovi. Queen is up there because they're 70s and 80s for sure. Queen is probably one of my all-time most influential like bands, and there's something to be said about Bohemian Rhapsody, like being a hit when it first came out, and then surging back when it came out with Wayne's World, and surging back again with Live Aid. Like, there's something to be said about that song that seems to transcend, you know, time periods.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Indy, how about an artist you feel is underrated and an artist you feel is overrated? So hot takes here.
I think Macklemore is underrated.
Mm-hmm.
Overrated, Drake, easy. Way overrated.
Yeah, that's an easy one. I would underrated. I think a lot of the pop artists are underrated in the sense that they get brushed into this pop like formula, like they get dragged down because of that, and as a result, they're like the actual artistry they have is underrated. It is underappreciated. Now, not all pop acts, you know, are created equally, but I would say the enduring ones, you know, like if you look at someone like Justin Timberlake, you know, it's easy to think of his NSYNC days as, oh, it's just a pop boy band fad, whatever. But over the course of his career, he proved to have some pretty good musical chops, you know. In terms of overrated, it's a controversial one, because I would say overrated would be music that I don't necessarily enjoy that other people do. I don't like Pink Floyd, but
Really?
that doesn't mean that they're necessarily overrated. But in my mind, why do people like them if I don't? You know, like it's hard to say that and know that the opinion is based on anything other than I don't particularly like their music. You know,
Fair choices.
Freddie Mercury was a siren. Changed my mind. He was one of a kind. Although if you watched there was I guess a documentary of when Queen did their tour with what's his name, when they came back into the tour with the guy from American Idol. I can't remember his name now.
Adam Lambert.
The Queen and Adam Lambert world tour that they did. Like that doc was really cool to see and watch him doing his take, and you know, obviously it's kind of a bit of it's a documentary slash like propaganda for the band, but they talked about how much range he had and how close he was to being able to do what Freddie could do compared to other guest singers they've had, you know.
Right.
So that's, that was pretty cool to watch. As a fan of Queen, like, I've watched a lot of those.
Well, it is 10:16 for me. I feel like I'm gonna die.
I was about to say, it's getting, I mean, I generally tell people, well, for the stream, like 8:30, 10:30 is usually as late as we go. And I know you said you were tired, and I don't really want to drag you on any further. The music chat's been good, but and Scotty says Black Sabbath, of course. You said they're overrated, right, Scotty? That's what you're telling me. But yeah, I don't want to keep you any longer than we have to. The only tradition, and I definitely stole this from More, is that you get to choose the raid target for us to leave.
Ooh, well, that is a spicy one. Well, considering that this is an individual I would have loved to seen at Brick World, but unfortunately didn't go because he's too much of a professional. I would love to raid into Sapiens, who's doing some Lego building of the upscaled minifigure.
Nice. We had Sapiens on a couple weeks ago, and it was a great chat with him as well.
I remember that. Yeah.
He, bringing his work into it, related to content creation, and but not on the creator side, but on the partnering with creators to create programs for companies, was super interesting to get his feedback on that, which is I wasn't expecting it, but it was definitely a pleasant surprise to get to dig deep into that and chat about that kind of stuff. So, oh good lord, IndieFit, I think you should be timed out for that one. Did you know that 1 out of 8 people believe in a deity? We call them atheists. Oh, good lord.
It's been a wonderful chat.
Oh man, I can't. Is that really how we're gonna go out?
we could have been here for 3 hours if I wasn't dying.
No, exactly. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for making time for me tonight, especially given how tired you are. Much appreciated. Let us start the raid for Sapiens. When are you streaming next?
I am streaming tomorrow morning, bright and early, 10 a.m. Eastern. Nintendo is unveiling Spicy Hotness, and apparently rumors are coming out with a game that's one of my favorites of all time. I might die again tomorrow, Ty. We're going to wait and see.
I remember seeing that on your socials today, that you were going to be streaming that. So yeah, we probably popping in there and lurking a little bit. Everybody, those are the 2 raid calls. Subs can use the Geek Out, Shaken Butt emotes. Anybody who's not subbed yet, go ahead and use the other one. We're going to raid Sapiens. I will be back on Friday night, hopefully. I scheduled a stream on Friday night, but I forgot that we have a family engagement, so might be a little bit later than my 8:30 p.m. start time, but we'll be doing Lego Bowser. I see yours in the background of your stream, and I'm jealous. We'll head on into Sapiens. Thank you again, chat, everybody, all the support today, all the comments, all the likes, all the follows, all the stuff, and especially to the one and only BricksOBrian for hanging out with us tonight and sharing his wealth of experience and knowledge. And what was I going to say? There's some other word I was going to use there, and I lost it as I was tossing it out. But
all the things all the time, it's fine.
All the things. Thanks, Brian.
See you soon. Bye.
Good night, everybody.